Hey friends, happy Sunday and welcome back to another week of What's for Dinner. If you're new here, hello and welcome. I am Taylor. I'm a stay-at-home wife and mom, and I share What's for Dinner videos just like this every Sunday to hopefully give you some new meal ideas to try and also to motivate you to cook more for your family. That's why I do these videos. It helps motivate myself to cook more for my family and helps me not to be tempted to eat out. So I hope that you enjoy this video, and if you do, make sure you're subscribed down below and leave me a thumbs up. And any recipes that I mention will be linked in the description box. Now let's go ahead and get into this week's What's for Dinner. First up, Friday night, I made some sheet pan, Lipton onion, pork chops, and potatoes. So I'm actually doing this with some canned potatoes, but you could use regular potatoes if you want. I just was trying to use some canned potatoes that I had, and I saw somebody, I think it was on TikTok, roast them in the oven. So I was like, perfect, I'm going to do that. So I had 2 cans of the whole potatoes, and I just used my kitchen shears and cut them in half. And then I seasoned them all over with some garlic powder, onion powder, paprika, salt and pepper, half of a packet of Lipton onion soup mix, and then just a drizzle of olive oil. I stirred those around really well, got them really coated, and then I transferred them to half of a sheet pan. And then I'm going to do the same thing with some boneless pork chops, season them up the exact same way as I did the potatoes, make sure they were coated really well, and then put them on the other half of the sheet pan. And then I baked these in the oven at 425 for about 25 minutes or until your pork chops are fully cooked. The potatoes got like a little bit crispy on the outside, but still like nice and soft on the inside. They were delicious. I will definitely do this again with canned potatoes. It was just a little bit of a time saver. This is what they looked like when they came out of the oven. I forgot to get a video or picture before I started making everyone's plates. The kids had a little bit of applesauce on the side of their pork chops because we didn't have enough for everyone because I forgot that part. And then I just made some green beans on the side. And that was it for dinner. It was delicious. Saturday night, I made pizza pasta. I have made pizza pasta in the past, but never as a one-pot meal. So that is what I'm doing today, is making it into a one-pot meal. So I forgot all about dinner and didn't pull my meat out until really late, and that's okay. Ground beef, when you freeze it this way, can cook really fast, even from frozen. So I just put it in my skillet, put a lid on it, and then once it was about like halfway cooked through and easy to crumble, then I started adding in my seasonings. So I added in some salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, and Italian seasoning. And then I also added in my diced pepper. I did some of the mini sweet peppers, like the yellow and the orange ones is what I used because I had a bunch of those that I needed to use up. And then I cooked that for a little bit until my meat was fully browned and my pepper started to soften. And then I added in 1 cup of some chopped up pepperoni and continued to cook that for a couple of minutes. And then I added in 1 jar of marinara sauce, and then I filled that jar with water and added that in, along with 1.5 teaspoons of beef bouillon powder. And then I brought that to a boil. Once it came to a boil, I added in 8 ounces of pasta. I was using rigatoni. And then I put a lid on this, turned the heat down to low, and cooked it for about 15 minutes. But the length of cooking is going to depend on what kind of pasta you're using. If you're using like elbows or something, it'd probably only take about like 10 minutes. But this rigatoni took about 15 minutes until it was done. And then I stirred in some cheddar cheese, topped it with some mozzarella, and then I just put a lid on this and let it sit for about 5 minutes to let that cheese get nice and melty. This turned out so well. I was really happy that I gave it a shot. Usually I cook like my pasta on the side and then mix everything together. And it just takes a lot longer. You dirty more dishes, and being able to turn it into a one-pot meal made my life so much easier. And if you wanted to, when you top it with the cheese, you could stick it in the oven under the broiler for a couple of minutes. I just didn't feel like doing it this night, but if you have an oven safe pan, you can definitely do that, get it nice and browned on top. But that was it. This was delicious. Tasted just like the regular pizza pasta, but way easier to make. You could serve this with some garlic bread or salad, but I was feeling lazy this night and we just had this. Sunday night we did some air fryer barbecue chicken thighs. These are bone and skin on chicken thighs, and I love how they turn out in the air fryer. So you could really season them up with whatever you like. Sometimes I do like my own seasoning blend, garlic, onion powder, all that stuff. But this night I just decided to use the Auntie No-No's Steakhouse seasoning, since I'm also going to be putting barbecue sauce on this. The seasoning is a little bit salty, so you want to be a little light-handed with it. But I just did a little bit of that on each side, and then I put them in the air fryer on 375, and I did them for 15 minutes, and then I flipped them over and did them for another 15 minutes. After that, they were almost all the way cooked through. And so then I just brushed them with barbecue sauce and broiled them for another 3 to 5 minutes. It got the barbecue sauce like cooked into the skin. It got nice and crispy. And then they could also finish cooking all the way through. To go with this, I just made some boxed macaroni and cheese and salad. This was actually Mother's Day, but we had celebrated the weekend before, so I just wanted something super easy. That's why we did boxed mac and cheese. And chicken thighs in the air fryer are always delicious. Monday night we did a super simple family favorite, and that is Meatball Subs. Elijah actually requested that as the crock pot meal this week. So I like to add in some of the Italian style beef meatballs from Sam's Club. I just do enough to cover the bottom of the crock pot. This is actually the last of the bag, so I just threw everything in there that was left. And then I do 1 jar of marinara sauce and about half a jar of water. Give that a good stir, and then these cooked on high for 4 hours. And then we came home, just gave them a stir, and then we can assemble our sandwiches. I was also making some tater tots in the background that you saw there to go with them. And so I like to use these like sub rolls from the grocery store, put some meatballs on there. I like to cut the kids' meatballs in half. It just makes it easier for them to eat. And then we top it with some mozzarella cheese, and then I put these in the air fryer for about 5 minutes. And then everything is nice and toasted and the cheese is nice and melty. We had those tots on the side, as I said, and then just some fresh veggies, some cucumbers, and I think maybe Lily had some tomatoes as well. But that was dinner for Monday night. Super easy to come home to after karate. Tuesday night we had 1 pot taco rice. So I'm going to brown 1 pound of ground beef, and I'm going to season it up a little bit with some onion powder, garlic powder, salt, and pepper. And then when it's about halfway cooked through, I added in half of a diced onion and continued to cook until my onion started to get tender and my meat was fully cooked. Then I'm going to add in the rice and the seasoning. I have done this in the past with the Mexican style rice-a-roni. You need 2 boxes of that. Or this time I did the Knorr Spanish rice that comes in like the bag. And so I added 2 bags of that in, and then half a stick of butter, and just cook that until all of the butter is melted, and you just kind of toast the rice and it's like rice and pasta, rice and vermicelli noodles. So just toast that up a little bit. And then I added in 1 can of drained Rotel, 2 cups of beef broth, and I brought that to a boil. And then once it came to a boil, I gave it a stir and reduced heat to medium-low. And then I covered this and simmered this for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, most of your liquid should be absorbed. Your rice should be tender. And then you can just top it with some cheese. So I topped it with some cheese. This is a Mexican style blend. And put a lid back on it and let it melt for about 5 minutes. Again, if you have an oven safe pan, you could throw this under the broiler in the oven if you want to, but I just did not feel like turning on the oven. So you can top this with really anything you want: sour cream, avocado, anything you'd put on a taco, like lettuce. We just did some chips on the side. Wednesday night I made a creamy chicken pesto gnocchi, and you could do this with pasta if you wanted to. You don't have to do gnocchi with this. I have made it with many different pastas. But I'm starting off with 1 pound of chicken that I've cubed up, and I've drizzled it with a little bit of olive oil, and I'm seasoning it all over with some Italian seasoning, salt, pepper, paprika, onion powder, and garlic powder. And then I heated 1 tablespoon of olive oil in my skillet, and I'm going to cook the chicken until it's completely cooked through. I did about 5 minutes per side, and I like to not stir it around a lot. That way you can get a good sear on the outside of the chicken. While I was working on my chicken, I brought a pot of salted water to a boil to cook my gnocchi according to the package directions. If you're using pasta, you'd do the same thing. And then when my chicken was done, I removed it from the pan and I added in some minced garlic. I probably did about 4 or 5 cloves of minced garlic, and then I just let that cook for about a minute. And then I'm going to add in half a cup of chicken broth, 1 cup of heavy cream, along with some salt and pepper, and then about 1 cup of some pesto. And then I simmered that on a medium-low for about 5 minutes until it really started to thicken up. And then I added in some freshly grated Parmesan cheese, the chicken, and my gnocchi, and then this was done. It's super easy. I will say, if you are making this with gnocchi, I would recommend doing 2 pounds of gnocchi. This was only a 16-ounce package, and there was way too much sauce for it. But usually when I use a 16-ounce package of pasta, it's the perfect amount of sauce. So either cut the sauce in half if you're doing it with gnocchi, or use more gnocchi. It is delicious though. The sauce is so good. It's creamy and pesto-y, and we absolutely love it. Again, you could do a salad or whatever you want with this, but I was not feeling like doing that this night, so we just ate this with a little bit more Parmesan cheese on top, and it was delicious. And finally, the last meal of the week is these chili Colorado burritos. I found this recipe on Pinterest years ago. You just need some stew meat, 1 can of enchilada sauce, and 2 beef bouillon cubes. You add all that to the crock pot, put a lid on this, and let it cook on low for 8 to 10 hours. Then you go in and just shred it up, and then you'll start assembling your burritos. The one thing that I would do, I've made this both ways. I've made this with a 19-ounce can of enchilada sauce and a 28-ounce can of enchilada sauce, and I do prefer to make it with the bigger can of enchilada sauce. Then you just have more of that you can put over top of your burrito. So I've got the large burrito size flour tortillas here, and I'm just putting on a little bit of refried beans, some of that meat from the crock pot. I use a slotted spoon to try to not get too much sauce, because you don't want too much sauce inside the burrito, then it makes it difficult to roll up. And then I also added in some shredded Mexican blend cheese, and then just roll them up in the burrito way. It's hard to describe, but yeah, roll them up like a burrito and put them on a parchment lined sheet pan. And then once they're all rolled up, you can pour some of the remaining sauce over top of the burritos and top with more cheese. And then they go in the oven under the broiler for about 5 minutes just to kind of melt that cheese. And then that's what they look like. I got 5 burritos out of this. The extra one was Andy's lunch for lunch the next day. It was leftovers, and we love this recipe. It is delicious. You can top your burritos with stuff if you want to. I like to do some lettuce, some pico, and some sour cream, but the kids and Andy just had some chips and guacamole on the side. But that is going to be it for this week's What's for Dinner. I hope that y'all enjoyed it. If you made it here to the end, make sure you leave me a smiley face emoji down in the comments. Let me know if you plan on trying any of these recipes that I shared with you this week. And I will see y'all in the next one. Bye!